So Aaron Gordon's 360 dunk the other night was sweet.
I was trying to figure out if he had to do that or if that was just like for fun. I do think it was. I think the pass was fine, and like, did he have to turn around and jump? I mean, who knows?
That's when I jokingly and sarcastically sent you the text. He's going to win
MVP. I remember seeing
it. It was that. I was like,
no,
I was like,
listen,
it's undeniable.
He had a good start. I think him shooting and making. What did he make? 9 threes or no?
He made 8 threes before he missed the other night.
I want to say he made 9 total threes.
I think he was 10 of 11.
10 of 11. Okay.
That is insane.
And I got a text from a Hall of Fame coach right after that, the next day, and he was wondering if that was good for the Nuggets. And I couldn't fight him on it really. Like, is that what you want Gordon doing? And from a basketball standpoint, I don't think the answer is. I think he should be making shots and taking and making threes when they're available.
Yeah.
But I
don't think you want him as your primary scorer.
That's not. Ever. Well, I don't want primary scorer. Not whatever. But I think just his shot selection. I think if it's stuck on the three, it's a problem.
Yeah, he's so physical and unique in so many different ways, and I look at the construct of him on that team, and he is like the consummate team player. And so I agree.
He's necessary in terms of he's a guy you can give it to him at the end of the clock, and he can go get in the paint and get a bucket. And I think the point that Coach was making was we don't want him shooting all the threes and not doing what it is that makes him good for that team. Like there's discussion on this other pod, it was Steve Nash's pod.
Okay.
And they were talking about this position on the court that I am very, very fond of. And I will give credit to Ross Schrader, my former co-coach. I was his assistant for a couple of years. But Ross and I came up with this offense that was centered around the dunker position. And not to get too technical and under basketball, but the dunker is essentially behind the backboard and outside the paint. So essentially on an NBA court, there's little hash marks. And so basically you are behind the backboard and not in the paint, you're on the side of it. So what happens is the way the rules are set up and the way defensive help matters is that it's a vulnerable position from a defensive standpoint because it's difficult to guard once the ball goes there. Yeah. And even the way it's used mostly in the NBA is sort of as a drop off. Like if I penetrate, get to the paint, and that dunker is coached and smart enough to get to a new spot when the drive happens, it's an easier finish. The other part it does is it allows 4 players to be on the perimeter instead of 5 players being on the perimeter, so it allows for more space to drive.
Yeah.
Anyway, Gordon is really good. He's their best dunker occupier on Denver's team. And for those people that play lacrosse, if you're familiar with lacrosse, there's a position in lacrosse called the X, which is behind the net. So it's no different than being behind the net, just like in hockey.
Cool.
But it's a playmaker from behind the net or a playmaker from this dunker position. And I far prefer actually throwing it to the dunker and letting that dunker be a passer instead of just a person drop it off. Anyway, long story longer, Gordon is best when he's near the rim, in my opinion. I think with Jokic being mostly elbow-based and a little bit more, I don't know what his percentages are, but he does get to the rim a lot. He rolls a lot. Sure. But there's nobody else on that team that's going to play at the rim with comfort. And if Aaron Gordon decides to fall in love with three-pointer, I don't think that's long-term success. I think that's what you saw the other night. Well, they got beat. And that's not because, I don't think they got beat because of his, he wasn't inside. But no, I don't think that's a recipe for a long-term success for the Nuggets.
It's good every once in a while, but not great.
Yeah, and if there's shot, The best shot in basketball, I've said this many times on lots of places, is the open one.
Yeah.
If Gordon has open threes, I think he has to take some of them.
Yeah, well, yeah, and a majority of them were, which is a wild.
Yeah.
As the game went on, and it's funny because we saw this multiple times over the weekend. There were 4 50-point games over the weekend. Shea had one, Gordon had one.
Austin Reeves had
Austin
one.
Reeves just had one. Luka, he was sitting at
Luka was in the high 40s.
48? Yeah, maybe 48.
Steph was almost 40 against Denver that opening night for Denver.
Right.
Yeah, there's been some lightning performances.
Yeah, and it's like points are points. From a non-technical aspect, the way I watch games is points are points.
Yeah.
To me, all points are equal, and I view that in baseball the same way, sort of thing of I don't care how the runs are scored, just play them.
I will push back on our points are points just a little bit. Points can be points at times. I'll point to a strategy that we used to use against Oklahoma City when it was Durant, Harden, and Westbrook. The strategy early in the game, start the game, was let Westbrook score, or at least encourage him to shoot it, and don't overreact to him scoring, because the more he scored, the less Durant was going to be involved.
Right.
It was truly a strategy.
Right.
Let Westbrook get 10.
Let him kill you,
and
if he can.
Yeah, and then that means Durant's not doing it, right? So I don't see that happening necessarily. Like I look at Luka and the Lakers, and I think about that team, and now that he's injured now, which is ridiculous, but
that puts a dent in your MVP claim.
Well,
by the way,
not yet.
Availability is the best ability.
It is the best ability. I don't know what his injury was even. I just saw that he was out, but
I think he's out for a week.
Okay, that's fine.
It's not great.
It's not great. It's like 3 games. I do think he's a guy that with that roster without LeBron, I need him to like 30 is minimum. Like I need 30 out of Luka.
Yeah.
Now when LeBron comes back and they have a full roster, sharing the basketball for the long term, I think is a better plan. It really just depends on shot selection. And again, coming down to if they get the right shots, no matter who takes them, I'm less concerned with somebody getting a bunch of points that maybe is an anomaly. Like this Austin Reeves 51-point game, all like you said, all those points matter. And I think for Austin, I think it's just a launch pad for him to have a bigger role going forward when the roster's full. Like those are confidence builders. Like if you hit 50 points in an NBA game, that's different. That's not just that's not an average player that can do that.
Does efficiency matter to you at all? Like how that 50 comes about? So Austin, I think, had plenty of shot attempts. You should get to 50.
I think it's, and I haven't looked at. I didn't watch the game. I totally missed that, or even the highlights even. But if they're bad shots, then yeah,
right.
It totally. And if he's just on a heater, those are two different things. If they're good shots, and you just had a great night shooting the basketball, that's ideal. Over the big sample, over 82 games, shot selection will be, I don't know about the most important, but one of the top 2 or 3 most important things that team is going to be able to do to be successful is take the right shots. And in the NBA, you want to get a good shot as soon as possible. You don't want to, there's no running clock to get one. You were trying to get one good shot or a good shot as soon as we possibly can. That's why they run the early actions and try to run the floor, try to do everything fast, quick decisions. The efficiency does matter. If it's inefficient, I think you can win a game. I think if it's efficient, that's a better sign of this team has the ability to do this. Now, I do think a team that's top heavy is just more vulnerable. Yeah. Just like the Lakers. If LeBron's not playing and Luka is top heavy and you lose Luka, now what? Now you've established a pattern for X amount of games, and then that player is out. Just like Oklahoma City's not as good with Shea. Denver is completely vulnerable without Jokic. Mm-hmm. Like all of those things matter. So talking in circles here, but the team that, again, gets the best shots, that has a star or two, and that player gets the bulk of the touches and the bulk of the plays go through them, I think those teams win. It's a star league. There's no mistake about that. But I don't think that there's these anomalies. Like Austin Reeves is not. I mean, it's awesome for 51, but it's an anomaly.
Right.
And if
he may
if
not
he
happen
average
again this season.
Yeah, I don't know what his average. I think he averages in the teens, maybe.
Yeah.
But I need him to be a key part of that team. He's their arguably third best player. You know, LeBron, Luka, Austin Reeves. I think that's your core.
Really? I feel like they had something when they put Rui on Jokic, right? Isn't that the joke now at this point?
And so going back to like Oklahoma City, it was Caruso on Jokic. Like the Jokic stopper is Caruso. Like he's the guy. Like the game's on tonight. I can't wait. It's Dallas and Oklahoma City tonight.
Yeah, it'll be a great game.
And I'll be curious if Caruso guards Cooper Flag. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, who's had his first game, which I took a special interest in watching just because it was against San Antonio. Mm-hmm. He didn't look like he didn't belong, but he looked like he was just getting his sea legs. And then game 2, everything seemed to just like snap right into place. I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense.
I think the not to overreact, and I have friends of mine that think Cooper, they can't wait to see Cooper Flag because they're Duke guys. And early on, I was like,
boo.
Yeah, I know, right? And early on, I was basically trying to just kind of stuff that down just a little bit in my own mind of like, don't overreact. I don't want to make any claims or whatever, but it's hard for me not to look at him and go, he's really good, and he's gonna be really good. I thought he would start and play a lot. I did not think he would be as involved as he is, so I was wrong on that standpoint. Now, what I do think they need to change from a basketball standpoint is not having him handle the basketball. They say point guard, and this is where there's a bunch of cliches in basketball that really bother me. If I guess calling him Icks would be a term, but they're like with Cooper starting at the point, like he's bringing the basketball up the court. That's different than being a point guard.
Yep.
Point guards are decision makers for the most part. Like I would call Jokic a point guard in terms of the job description. And
the way he handles
all of it, right?
All of it. I mean,
and I wouldn't put Cooper in any point guard category at current who he is now. Just because he dribbles the ball up the court and he starts with the basketball, I guess by definition, sure, he's a point guard because that's who normally does that. But he's not the key decision maker.
Right.
I would love to see him do that eventually, but I'd rather see him off the ball, catching it off of the second or third pass and driving it and getting into the paint. And you saw on the against San Antonio when Wemby was off the court how easy Cooper was to get to the paint. He actually scored when Wemby came off the court more than he did when he's on, which is Wemby's
that's everybody's life right now.
It's going to be he is changing.
But the other night I just watched him, like I had texted you about it where he blocked Zion 4 times in a single game.
One possession.
And then followed up, I think last night, I was watching highlights, and he did it again to somebody else. And I'm looking at it like, this is a freak.
There was some stat, I totally forget the stat. I was looking at it this morning where there's like all these X amount of blocks per game in the history of the NBA, and Wemby has most of them after just 4. It was just some odd, like multiple. I think he had 9 blocks. He's going to have a quadruple double with blocks. And maybe he has. I don't know if he's had one of them. But that's a thing. That's not crazy.
No.
He changes the entire dynamic of how a team will play. And it's going to be one of those teams that you have to scheme around. What do you do with that person? Take him away from the basket, or do you put him in the pick and roll? Do you I don't know. I don't know what you do with Wembanyama, where you try to get him to play defensively. because he just covers so much ground.
There's literally he covers a lot of ground with
it's
one
fascinating.
step.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean it's wild, and it's wild to watch people try to drive in, especially when he's in the paint or right there, and I see those as terrible shot decisions.
Well, and I don't know.
You got to do what you got to do.
There was somebody that like got into his body and tried to, it might have even been Zion, that tried to make contact with him, which is usually the strategy. They always say, a shot blocker, you want to try to hit his body or get into his body to try to at least, whether there's a foul or you can maybe physically move him so can't get to your shot, that kind of thing. It didn't matter. Like Zion's a big beast of a dude, and one thing I noticed about Wembanyama this year versus the previous years is his strength and his balance is far better. It's exponentially better than when he first came to the league.
Yeah, he looks stronger.
Yeah, it's not you'd expect that. Like everybody, if you looked at Giannis when he was a rookie, he looked like a really tall child, a really long 7-foot arms, long armed child.
No, he looks like he could break me in half.
He's a big human now.
Yeah.
And so you would expect that for him to do that. And Wembanyama doesn't look that much different. I'm sure he's gained some weight, but
yeah, he's lean. There's a very different athletic build to him than most people that are his size.
Yeah, and I think the criticisms early on. I remember people criticized Kevin Durant about being 6'11" and 100 and whatever he was.
Well, yeah, he was
pounds.
the Slim Reaper at one point. Wasn't that a name?
I'm like, I don't care that Kevin Durant is not built like, Anthony Edwards.
Right.
Like, just physical presence. It'll never happen. Like, I need him to be strong, of course, and he got stronger. But like Wembanyama, I'm not trying to put bulk on him, or I wouldn't be like, we need to change your body in order for you to play. I just think what he's been able to do in these first few games of the season is not get knocked off balance. He's been able to give hits and take hits and stay in the play and not be, take a bad shot because of it. The one thing I have seen, it's a super minor criticism, is and this is just watching the film, I guess. I'd like to see the stats on it, or the synergy stats on it. But when he goes left, down the left lane line, he gets so low when he starts to shoot the basketball. So he starts his moves right around the elbow, and maybe he does a spin move or something, and he ends up going straight to the baseline as opposed to the basket. Now, he's against defense, but a lot of his shots come from the baseline, and they're really high level of difficult. So his angle to the basket is really poor. And so I would like to see something where he changes his start line or changes his something to get him to see the backboard. So as it stands now, he shoots, with the backboard. I'd like to see him face the backboard a little bit more when he attempts the shot, because now he has at least a bank. He can use the glass. He can, it's just an easier angle.
Yeah.
You'll notice when he drives baseline, he gets all the way down to the block, and he'll end up fading away on the left side and taking these one-legged difficult shots, which aren't that difficult for a guy like that.
Right.
But I do see that it's just a poor angle, and understanding how to make that a little bit better, maybe a high percentage shot. On the right side, he shoots jump shots. So his tendency is to drive right, and he doesn't really get to the rim as well going right, but he does shoot it really well going to his right. So anyway, scouting report. I don't know the scouting report or what teams have on him, but certainly wants to get to the rim going to his left, and his right hand wants to get to the jump shot. Minor criticisms, but he's incredible. He'll be an MVP before very soon.
Yeah,
I think he'll be an MVP very soon. As soon as San Antonio starts to win some games, and top 4 in the West and threat to the home court advantage in the playoffs, he will be an MVP candidate. It'll be impossible to keep him out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if he keeps going at this rate, and has a great season, they could sneak in.
I don't think they're sneaking in. I think they're in.
You think they're in?
I think they're
no
getting
play-in
in this year.
No,
I think they're going to be good enough
to
where he's such a difference maker, and the other guys that have Stephon Castle and Harper he's still a rookie and he's going to have some learning curves, and I wouldn't even put him into like the impact players on that team yet. But
it's no plan for San
Cornet,
Antonio. They're in.
They're playing Cornet and Wemby at the same time. So French Vanilla is playing at the same time.
It's great.
That's 14 and a half feet of guy. That's nuts. So I do think San Antonio is going to make the playoffs.
Awesome.
And I'm not saying top 4. I would say I don't think it's play in. I think it's somewhere 5 to 7.
6?
5, 6, 7, somewhere in there.
Well, in terms of taking good shots, free throws are great, but free throws I think are going to have a little bit more scrutiny. We have to talk about the inevitable right now.
Foul baiting?
Not just foul baiting, but is someone putting money on a game right now in order to get some foul baiting?
We're going to swim in that pool.
We have to swim in this pool because
I think
because it's so shocking. And I told you over the weekend, I sent you a photo from an improv show I did where I started off a scene for me and 4 other people saying we were at a Chauncey Billups poker table. I forgot to tell you that the true irony of the moment, and one of the guys there thought I was messing with him. He was sitting directly to my left, but it was funny. He was wearing a Scary Terry Scream, like Ghostface shirt from when he was with the Celtics. So
unbelievable. The irony, the level of irony, yes.
It could not have been played better, but this individual thought I was messing with him because I started seeing that. And I'm like, I saw your shirt, but it didn't like register to me. But at first, so we have to talk about
it. Did the improv troupe take off with it?
A good friend of mine at the theater, he sat there to my right, and the whole premise of the scene was for those listening that don't know what improv is. There's a thing called a game you got to do in improv, and you always want to try to find the game. And the game was that everybody knew something I didn't, which is made funny when 3 people are putting imaginary X-ray glasses on.
Yes,
are all around you, and you're the only one
you're
who's not.
Okay. Yeah.
But they all picked up, ran That's with awesome. It, and
Yeah, I think so. I think betting today, literally today, is the safest betting will ever be again. Meaning, when it's exposed that there's an issue, I think if you were doing anything inappropriate prior to that exposure, you run from it. Meaning, like 100%. It's like, flying after something negative at the airport.
Yeah.
Or, going to school the day after a reported threat of sorts is the safest day to go. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
And so betting today is probably the safest it's been in terms of you're getting what's happening as opposed to it being thrown.
Right.
Now, I do think, and we're just going to get right into it, I think that those implicated, the list is really long. And whether
I think it's longer than we know.
Oh gosh, I think it's deep. I think it's big. I think when you get the guys that were involved that have already been named, the people that they are closest to, I'd be stunned if they weren't privy to what was going on.
Yeah.
Stunned. And I won't name names, that I will leave it at that. I think there's
I think there's probably a lot of Tom Brady and Deflategate smashing cell phones occurring right now, or trying to get an IT professional to delete your entire Google history. I would say that there's probably a lot of that going on. What I can also say is I'm not surprised by this at all, especially when you look at professional sports as a whole right now. It is in your face. Every ad.
There are FanDuel logos on shirts.
Right. The baseline at Ball Arena has Bet365 on the baseline.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I was listening to this today about that same argument of like, well, what did you expect? It's everywhere. It's, It's deep. It's
corner screen of the broadcast right now.
FanDuel. Yeah, we're watching the game. Sure. But at the same time, that's like, I don't want to use the worst example here, but that's like, well, I did that because it's blaming something else that's irrelevant to the action.
It is.
But at the same, it's ironic, and it's a bit hypocritical from like the league to say, oh no, we support online betting, we support FanDuel, Bet365, whatever it is. Yeah. There's a bit of hypocrisy there that if you just look at it quickly, but at the same time, if you don't know as a player or somebody involved that giving the information is highly inappropriate, illegal,
right. I mean, sharing injury reports is absurdly bad.
Well, but you get injury reports, though. This is where I didn't understand this, because you do get injury reports at a certain time it's usually right before the game. And so I don't know what the timing is of when the reports come out versus when the bets have to be placed.
Odds can change in 30 minutes.
No question. But I do think if clearly what like Damon Jones was doing was saying, hey, this person's not going to play tonight, and it was not revealed before the bets were placed. So there must be, whatever the timing is of when you have to submit, I know you have to submit a lineup, submit eligible players, and that happens at a certain time right before the game. I don't know if the people taking the bets, placing the bets, know that information. Bottom line, if you are involved at all in decision making in basketball, like if you're a coach, player, personnel, anyone that has their checks signed by a team, it should be illegal for you to bet.
Yeah,
anyone could be anyone.
Yeah, I go so much. I agree with you 100% there. I think it should be illegal for you to bet in any regard at all whatsoever.
You can't be involved at all.
Like you can't do it at all. You know, this goes back to the Shohei Ohtani thing in Major League Baseball of like, well, did he know? Did he not know? I'm one of the conspiracy theorists who sits there and says that's a lot of money to not know about.
Yeah. Like they said it was his handler that was doing all the
they said it was his interpreter, his business partner that's like funneling millions of dollars. And look, I get he signed a $700 million contract, but that's a lot of money. So I guess where I agree. If your paycheck and your source of income is signed by a professional sports team, you should not be allowed anywhere near a Vegas casino or an MGM FanDuel app. No. We are not sponsored by any of these names, but you should not be allowed anywhere near that because it creates, from a society standpoint and from a fan standpoint, it creates legs for things that may not be there, you know. So something like this comes out 2 games into an NBA season, and now all of a sudden, you know, you and I have talked about, and you've talked about SGA and his ability to get to the foul line. What it does for the rest of the fan base of NBA teams is now it sits there and goes, well, why does he have more shot attempts from the free throw line than the next 4 teams combined closest? And it's not insinuating anything because it is a skill he has and he has developed.
Yeah. And I think last year I remember going over the stats in the playoffs, and he wasn't the most. He was sort of in line with similar player on other teams and other. So it was high, but it wasn't an anomaly. It wasn't like the XY and then somewhere off here in the distance is where he was.
But the casual person and the casual fan is not going to look at that.
They're just
going
to
to look at why did he get 26 shot attempts and my team got 4?
Yeah, I think it happened last night. Somebody, who was it last night where the free throw, I think it was the Laker game. It was Lakers and Kings. I think that's what it was. Where the free throw discrepancy was like double.
Right.
And as when I coach I hear a lot of people will look at the foul count, like, oh, they're this, and I sort of side with the referees in this one. It's like, we don't know. We don't look at the fouls, like the discrepancy. We don't look up and go, oh shoot, they're in the bonus.
I better even this out.
We got to.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there are some referees that are whatever, but
there have been.
And there have been, yep. Donaghy.
Yep.
But I don't think that they police it like that in real time. What I do think is there's certainly a star-based like bias. These guys get the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
But I do think there's a lot of contact, and you could probably call a lot of this. And I think what they're I have no background or basis for this, but what I want to believe is that the league says, let the players decide this. If end of games and close games, and they know who their stars are. I know that they get memos on certain players.
Of course,
they all get that. They all have their own history with those players.
Absolutely.
Guys that have the ball late in the games will get benefit of the doubts on calls going either way, and whether they're guarding or whether they're playing offense. But the game is officiated to benefit the offense,
right?
By far.
Yep.
Even with the change in the rule this year, where if you shoot and your hand goes to contest and you hit my hand, it used to not be a foul because it was sort of like the ball was gone and they would hit a hand and they wouldn't call that foul.
Right.
That is now a foul.
Yes.
Like the high five, kind of like and I think it should be a foul. But at the same time, I know that it's a subjective thing.
Yeah.
A foul is a subjective. Some of it's subjective. Sometimes it's really obvious. But the subjectivity to having it be the referee that makes this, and some referees like certain players and some don't. And the league will never admit that. The refs will probably never admit that. But there are widely publicized, I guess, attitudes towards referees and players that people know about.
Yep.
And as long as there's going to be stars in the league, those stars are going to get calls. Now, at what point do you become a star? Like, is Cooper Flagg going to get calls? I don't think so. Not yet.
No.
Wemby hasn't gotten calls yet. Like he's probably getting hit more than most. Like, these big guys. Like I'll go to like on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'll go to Draymond Green. Draymond Green hits everyone first. He is physical from before the ball is even tipped. He is in the ear of the referee. He says the most. He's loudest. He complains the most. He overreacts the most. If he gets a call, or he gets a foul called on him, he acts like he's never been more offended in his life. And so if you show up that way, and he's been like that since day one, where he's been physical, he's been physical first, you cannot call as a referee, I get it, you can't call them all. So you allow it. Yeah. Because then now, and so that's why Draymond is like, well, he's now known as this defender or this person, and he has this characteristic that's just like, well, that's just who he is. Yeah. That's completely, I don't want to use the word unfair, but that's completely not like the others, right? There's some new guy that's on the floor who decides to hit a player early in a possession, that's going to be a foul. Of course. And they're not going to let it. Anyway, so the point being is it's all subjective to who's calling it, what's happening. I do think time and score are thought of in an NBA game. I think if it's at the end of the game, they will swallow a whistle unless it's, something that's, this is why I tell, any team that I coach, like late in the game or whatever, get to the paint and make a play from the paint. And if we get a 3 out of that, fine. But those that settle on a 3, there's a reason why those are bad decisions. Like there was a possession the other night. It was LaMelo Ball. LaMelo's super talented, but he just took this really egregious long 3-pointer at a close game and ended up losing, I think. It was just a bad shot. Like it was just a kind of a step back.
Still advised.
Yeah, just like, wait a minute, what? And the game was tied or close. Try to get to the paint. You will get a call, probably. You're going to be in the bonus. It depends on the situation,
Yeah,
of course. But
yeah.
again, the whole point is, if it's late in the possession, I'm going to get in the paint. I'm going to try to at least. That's how I'm going to get the shot I want, whether it's that shot for my star rolling, or if it's, get to the paint and the whole thing, you get the other team in rotation and you find somebody for an open play. I think it's sort of like, tie goes to the runner in baseball when we were kids. Tie goes to the offensive player.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
And tie goes to the offensive player that makes it a downhill aggressive, thoughtful, play toward the rim. It's just sort of, from a basketball standpoint, watching it, even officiating it, I'd probably favor that play.
Of course, yeah.
And I know referees don't think that way maybe, but at the same time, if I got a player going to the rim and making a play, they're going to get that call. So back to the original point, Shea is one of the best players to get to the paint in the league. You look at all these players that get to the paint, they just are better at getting in there and causing things. Luka.
Yep.
Luka's another one. I don't know what Luka's free throw attempts are, but they're really high. I guarantee you they're top 10.
Right, and he's good at doing it.
And he's great at doing it.
You said something that was interesting to me. You talked about some refs have histories with players, and it's inevitable. I want to know. I don't know who the ref was that was calling the game, the Celtics game last night, but I want to know the history of the guy who called Derek White's second technical ever on him last night.
Yeah, and I think that stuff. So
because to me that's just funny. I waffle on technical fouls sometimes, where I'm like, man, you're just really in your feelings right now.
Yeah, I do think that the technicals called in the NBA right now are way too sensitive. I think what was a technical a decade ago
I watched
is
Jordan
is
in the
now
90s.
a flagrant. Yeah. So, or I guess the inverted one. What's a technical now was not a technical 10-year, whatever. I do think it's policed too much. I think they're too quick to do technicals. I call technicals. I think.
Yeah,
again,
Booker got one the other night in the Nuggets game, in the Nuggets and Suns game, where I was trying to figure out where it came from.
Well, here's what I know that has happened. Sometimes the technicals are accumulation of multiple games with that referee.
Of course.
Meaning 10 games ago, you reffed my game, and I was in your ass the entire game. Call this, call that, that's a foul, and I just nonstop.
Right.
And you as the referee, sort of did your best to just, all right.
Yeah.
Fine, and just took it until you couldn't take it. So some of these technicals are accumulations of a lot of basketball. I don't think it's in the moment. Now, the other thing is what you'll watch getting technicals, like when they do the replay of the actual play, and you're like, that's not a technical foul.
Right.
That might have been the 10th thing that guy did leading up to that thing. So
of course.
I want to trust the referees. I want to trust the league. I want to trust the teams and the players. What I do know is these players never stop talking to the referees. The coaches never stop talking to them. So as much as I am not a favor of some of the technicals that get called and how quickly they come, I'm certain that maybe they're not as quick as I think they are. They seem quick, but now that I'm thinking about it, it's probably an accumulation technical.
Yeah. And for those listening, it's probably important to note that so that you don't start running wild with conspiracy theories. But with all of that said, fouls, betting on games, so on and so forth, how, I don't want you to say any names, but how deep do you think this goes? Are we just at the start?
I think we are. No, I think there's a lot of names. So what I do think will happen is it's sort of I don't think we'll know everyone.
No way.
I think there's not
some
enough.
Some people will give up others
right.
for some.
There's not enough evidence, I think, to, even press charges on some of these guys, whether
100%.
they were involved or not. Now, I hope it's not. I hope it was just the gambling thing in terms of the poker game. So there's two issues: the poker game, and then there's the affecting the games.
Yeah, the Terry Rozier.
Yep, and even
offshoots of
but
that.
they're even saying that's, well, Terry wasn't the only one that was mentioned as giving information for the bettors, or who's going to play and who's injured, that kind of thing. So I think if you look at the players that were named and who we know that they're close with, I don't think it's a stretch to say that those people are likely involved. Now, they're also protected.
Right.
We're talking about, guys with statues that are probably protected. If something is negative going on, I don't think it goes. I think somebody is going to take a fall. I don't know if it's the big ones.
Well, this goes to the Shohei situation. There's a direct comparison for this almost right now because Major League Baseball just went through it this past year, in that there's no way Major League Baseball's first billion-dollar player could do this. There's no way he could be worse than Pete Rose. So there's no way that we were going to allow it to. We're going to allow it to be proven. Right.
And there's no way the league, while these guys are still playing, that they're going to do anything. I think the league probably goes to the FBI and says, "Hey, this person,
we can't have
yeah,
this.
let's negotiate. And I don't think that's unreasonable. I don't think that's. Now, somebody on the other hand would be like, "Oh, if they're criminals, And I hope justice catches up with all of them. But if you don't have enough, certainly evidence is paramount. But there's also,
well, right now it's a lot of it seems to just be who is in attendance and who is not in attendance.
But there's gonna. I think it's way deeper than that, and now the mob's involved. This is.
I'm from Chicago. The mob has always been involved.
Yeah, and I was like, wait a minute, the five families are still around, and I think it's as simple as there was involvement. There was a player that got involved, and it has nothing to do with the money.
Right.
I don't think it has anything to do with the money.
Right.
I think maybe some of these guys probably needed, the $1 million that they made on this thing or whatever. I don't know. I'd be not surprised, but I'd also be like, that's crazy town. But
financial literacy isn't something that is spoken with, to great admiration by any professional sports league.
No,
so
for sure,
yeah,
it happens all the time. But I think what was probably more appealing was sort of being connected to the mob. There's a factor. There's a little bit of a, it's kind of cool. I get to hang out with. These mobs, like legit,
gangsters.
the mafia.
Gangsters, man.
And so I don't. That's just speculation on what the draw was. But also, if these guys are gamblers, there's probably I don't know about a sickness, but there's an addiction to gambling. There's probably a gambling problem. If you're willing to do and throw away all of it,
and it's perpetuated more now in professional sports because you could bet on anything.
Yeah. And I think there's probably been a lot of people that began betting in the last decade that didn't know they had a gambling problem. Now they do. Right? This is fun or this is whatever.
Or they still don't
know. Right? Yeah. And so the access to gambling has probably uncovered what was already there. They just didn't discover it until they now can bet. 20 years ago, pre-betting or whatever, you had to go to Vegas or had to get a bookie to have a gambling problem. Now you just need to turn your phone on.
Yep. And prop bets are the most fun. You could bet on what color of Gatorade Shea is going to drink on any given night.
Yeah, and I just think it's there's an electricity to it that these players are involved in this thing that's a little bit shady, but they're probably like, no, it's cool. I won't get caught. I don't know. I just
that's what concerns me is when you hand money to people as young as many of these players are, and when you hand life-changing money to these individuals, happened fresh on my mind, like Ryan Leaf, for example, the old NFL quarterback, flamed out, had his own problems, but got handed life-changing money as a high draft pick in the NFL, and things went downhill. Yeah. And so that's what worries me the most is how deep does this really go? How many kids are in trouble?
Yeah.
because of all of this.
Well,
And
I know high school kids that bet all the time.
yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, this is where part of me is like, is it the betting, the actual, like, I don't want to use a bad example. I have examples in my brain and I can't use them because they're bad. But like, is it because of the betting that it's a problem, or is it because the kid has a problem? Which came first? Is it chicken or egg, right? Is it because, would that person have an issue regardless of the easy access to it or not? Now, I know it's more accessible, that kind of thing. But did these guys that were named in this thing, did they already have something there?
Right.
And I think 100% they had something there already. This is not just, because the betting is available, it's going to be abused. Like, I remember the argument against, well, we don't want to put an NBA team in Vegas because of the gambling aspect. Well, we have a gambling problem and there's not a team in Vegas. So,
right.
like, that's irrelevant.
Right.
Again, back to our original point, if your checks are signed by that team, you can't be involved at all. You cannot have you just cannot bet.
Right.
You cannot do
on
anything. What I think will happen is Silver will react swiftly when this is all, when the charges come down and all these things happen. There'll be, I guarantee you, every team this week has had a meeting. Every team. League mandated. I don't know this to be
I think
true
every
at all.
team did.
I'd be stunned if the league wasn't like emergency meetings with every team and every organization top to bottom. Like, you cannot bet on these games. I don't care if you're just the secretary and you cannot bet.
Right.
Sorry,
don't touch
nothing
it.
against secretaries. Secretaries are important.
Well, I mean, but you could be
somebody that doesn't have an effect on the game.
You could be an equipment manager, and it would
you
still.
would, but you would know. So like, I'll
you
use
could be in ticket sales.
I'll use the example. Last year there was so Aaron Gordon had this calf issue, and he was playing through it,
right?
But was just not good enough.
He was a shell of himself.
He was a shell of himself, and it was a known calf issue. Well, they have these, not team doctors, but these doctors that are around these guys that do just like not PT docs, but these guys are MDs, but they're experts on mapping out where this is coming from and why they're having this issue and all that. No one knew this, but Gordon was playing through that injury, and he went and saw this one doc, and I won't even get into the story, or how I know about it, but I know from this doc, first person story from this doctor. He's like, he wasn't arrogant. He's like, I fixed his calf. And Gordon essentially was like, you made it possible for me to play.
Right.
Like, I wasn't going to play until you fixed my calf. So even somebody like that who would know, like, that's intimate information that no one else gets to know. That's a doctor,
And if an entity like the Mafia is connected, there's no way that they couldn't find that out.
Yeah, for sure. I think, again, you just can't, back to the original point, you cannot get involved in that at all.
No.
And as much as you think it'll, this is 2019 is when they say.
I think 2018 is when they have it all dated back.
Yeah, and they had a couple other players that were named from all the way, that's 6 years ago. They've been sitting on it, not sitting on it, but gathering information and evidence for 6 years. Like,
there's a lot of information.
There's a lot. Then and think of all the players that are no longer in the league that were probably involved in it. Like, I don't know if it's, hundreds of players, but I think there's a handful. If there's 3 that we know about now, 4, maybe more, 4 at least.
Plus an NFL player in Antonio Gates.
Now there's an NFL player. Like, who else is involved? Like, are there fighters involved? Are there, like, are we into MMA? Are we into, who knows what could be? It could be any number of people involved in this.
Yep.
I just think it sucks, but this is sort of like the natural selection of what needs to happen in order for this stuff to no longer happen again.
Yep.
The scary, like, oh gosh, like that's a
well, I don't want what's happening to them.
That's a bad lesson to learn. Yeah, hopefully that's it.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, today is the safest day to bet on basketball.
Yep. And we'll see how far down the rabbit hole we go.
Deep.